What's up, guys? 3-1 yesterday. Another nice winning day. The loss being the Colorado Avalanche in that really crazy game against Winnipeg, where Winnipeg again allowed a lot of goals in the game, and it was a 7-6 final. The game was totally crazy. Colorado was playing with a lot of energy early. I think they had an early lead. I think they were up 3-2 midway through the game. And then Winnipeg scored 4 straight goals, and then it was 6-3 pretty late in the game. It looked like, oh, this is over. And no, Colorado still didn't totally go away, but Winnipeg did score one more goal in there. So Colorado never wound up actually tying it, but they lost 7-6. Just a wild game. That's not the type of game that Winnipeg likes to play, I don't think. They tend to rely on Hellebuck. I don't know how to pronounce his name. They're very good goalie and more of a defensive style of game. Not really a game that I would think would be to their liking, but they still were able to win that one. Yeah, I don't know if I want to recap all the games that happened in NHL and in NBA, but I was at the Celtics game. That was a crazy game as well. Celtics completely blew out Miami. They had a huge lead throughout a lot of that game and let Miami go on a couple of big runs. Looked like the Celtics kind of took their foot off the gas a couple of times, and Miami kind of got back into it a little bit. And they actually got back to within the point spread at one point fairly late in the game. But obviously the Celtics still wound up covering that. Just commenting on that because I was at the game. It was fun. Yeah, I mean, in hockey, of course, the other results, a lot of close games, really. Florida beat Tampa by 1. Vancouver was losing to Nashville 2-1 in the third period and wound up winning 4-2. Rangers handled Washington 4-1. And then in the NBA yesterday, of course, I won on the Milwaukee Bucks. Very strange game. They just had a really great first half. Lillard had 35 points in the first half. He put Milwaukee on his back. I think that might have been some sort of playoff record for points scored in a half, and then he scored 0 in the second half. But they still wound up winning the game and covering, of course, for me, because they're a home underdog. They won that was a nice, easy win. They won pretty easily there. The Milwaukee Bucks taking care of business, handling Indiana. They're throwing Indiana off their game, really. Kind of a lower pace style game, which Milwaukee likes to do. Milwaukee, without Giannis, they still have other good players in there, man, and they showed up and played well. And I don't know what happened with Dallas and the Clippers. Dallas only scored 8 points in the second quarter against an LA team without Kawhi Leonard, team that really you wouldn't expect to be playing really great defense without their best defender. Very strange result there, I would say. And then I was also correct, though, about the lean in the latest game, the Oklahoma City-New Orleans game. New Orleans played a nice game and were pretty much in that game wire to wire, hanging around, and it just did not fall their way in the end. OKC was able to get that win, but that was a close game, man. New Orleans, without Zion, playing pretty well without him. Brandon Ingram is playing for New Orleans. And then in baseball, the two plays that I had, the Emerson Hancock late game for Seattle, no sweat there at all. And then the Detroit game wasn't really either. The Tigers, they won easily too. So you like to have those easy wins, man. Moving on to today, we'll talk about the NHL because I'm just going to skip the NHL card today. I don't like what I see here. Boston, my Bruins, game 2 down from -160 to -138, but they have 63% of tickets, 90% of the cash. I do think that the zigzag phenomenon would tell you that you should go against Boston here, but they've dropped in price. So you don't really get as much value playing Toronto. Toronto probably would be the team to have the adjustments to make. But then again, Bruins have dominated Toronto this season, and Bruins have the cash percentage edge there, so I just don't know what to think about that. Carolina sitting at a -238. Money line favorite, down from -240, 91% of the tickets, 98% of the cash, though. Don't know what to think about that game either, really. Carolina, of course, won game 1, but it was a close game for a while. So I don't know if there would even be any like zigzag type of component to that game at all. Vegas and Dallas and LA and Edmonton, I believe, are both starting their series. So Dallas, 74% of the tickets, 91% of the cash, up from -123 to -138. I kind of think Dallas is a little bit overrated, though. Like, I would tend to think they're a little bit overvalued, but they are getting the money here, it looks like. So I don't know what to think about that against the returning champs, Vegas. But both of these teams have playoff experience. And Vegas, being the returning champs, could also have a target on their back a little bit. So I don't know what to think about that. And I don't remember if Vegas eliminated Dallas from the playoffs last year or not. Did they? Maybe I'll look at that real quick because that would be a factor. Playoff revenge is a little bit of a factor. I don't remember if that was the case or not, though. Let me see. Yeah, that was the conference finals. Vegas over Dallas. So Dallas might have a little bit of extra motivation for that reason, too. Ooh, boy. Kind of makes me want to play Dallas here, to be honest. Let me see. What did they do this year? Dallas against Vegas. I'm looking real quick here. Let's look. Regular season. Vegas. Dallas lost at Vegas in a shootout. Lost at home to Vegas. Lost at home to Vegas. So they still have not beaten Vegas yet. Ooh, boy. I mean, Vegas has kind of had their number, which that was the case with that Colorado game, too, and I still did it. Let me see. Vegas did really dominate Dallas in that first game. Let's see here. Thinking about making a play on the fly here. I mean, the first game was in a shootout. The second game was overtime. Second game, Dallas was the better team there and outplayed Vegas at home. And then the last game was also at Dallas, and Dallas got absolutely massacred, blown out 6-1. Statistically, Dallas got outplayed, but not as horribly as that score would indicate. Yeah, fuck it. Let's play Dallas. Now I'm going to have a play in every sport. Oh, no. Dallas, they're going to have a motivational edge here, man. I think we can lay them minus 130. We'll do it. We'll play the Dallas Stars, even though I do think they're a little bit overvalued. They are public coming into this, but like I said, they do have the cash discrepancy. Does look like there's money coming in on them, and this is like quadruple revenge for them at this point now for losing to Vegas last year and Vegas being the team that eliminated them last year is what I mean, and losing to them all 3 times this season. We'll take Dallas, and then LA and Edmonton. Edmonton's up from minus 160 to minus 170. 70% of the tickets, 89% of the cash. So they look like they have money coming in on them too. On the Edmonton side, a decent sized favorite. Whew, I am not getting involved though. Man, I'm dying here. I'm so out of breath. I'm fat. Oh boy, and I have allergies. All right, NBA. I do have one play in the NBA, and I don't know if I love it or not. So we have Magic Cavs playing. Cavs down from 6 to 5.5. Cavs, of course, won game 1 by double digits. 51% of tickets, 54% of the cash on the Magic. The zigzag would tell you probably come in on the side of the Magic here because the Cavs won game 1, but it wasn't really a huge blowout necessarily. I do lean to the Magic, but I do think the better play is on the total, and that's actually where I'm going to be in this game. I don't play too many NBA totals. I play more in the playoffs than anywhere else. But I think you can find some nice zigzag spots with the totals. Cavs were what? Like a 4.5, 5-point favorite in game 1 here. So we are getting a little bit of line value playing the Magic too, because what's changed really other than the Cavs won game 1 pretty easily. So they're up to like 6, 5.5 here. So maybe a little bit of zigzag value on the Magic. But we do also have a lower total. The total in game 1 was, I think, at 206. And it wound up landing, I believe, 180. So it was a low total there, way below the total with the under. But now we have a game 2, man. So in game 1, these teams were off for a long time. They were rested. It's the playoffs. They're ready to come in and play intense defense. A lot of times that's what you see in game 1. But then game 2, you only have 1 day off, really. You have a quick turnaround time, and the defenses are not as well rested, and they don't tend to play as well in game 2. So game 2 conducive to the overs. This game went way under, so I think we're getting value here. The line's actually down from 204 to 203, juice to the under. But it does look like 81% of the cash looks like it's on the over, though, and 57% of tickets. So it looks like there is cash discrepancy on the over here, and that is where I'm going. I will play the over in this one. You can get over 202.5 right now, actually, at some spots. I think it's a nice play to take the over here. And if you like the Magic, I think the Magic like to play a little bit of a higher scoring type of game as well. So if they're going to be the team that makes more adjustments here, the game might suit their style of play a little bit more too. So I like I do like that one. So we'll play the over in the Magic Cavs game. 76ers and Knicks are playing. That game's up from Knicks 4-5, going through the 5 with juice. 70% of the cash on the Knicks, 66% of tickets on the other side on the 76ers. So again, it looks like pros versus Joes. The Joes coming in, taking the 76ers, thinking maybe it's not possible for the 76ers team to lose like this. And the spread looks pretty big after the Knicks one game one. The spread in this game is actually higher. It was like 3.5, I think, maybe 4 in game one. I thought that was a little bit too high. Actually, I'm not convinced that the Knicks are the better team here, but it looks like the market is very much in disagreement with that. Looks like it is a very strong like market indication type of game on the side of the Knicks, but I'm not going to do that. Like I'm not going to play on the team that like had a really good game one. I don't know. I can't bring myself to do that one, but it does look like a ton of the market indicators are on the Knicks there, surprisingly, because I'm not even sure I necessarily agree with it. And then Lakers Nuggets. The Nuggets are up from 7 to 7.5. 57% of the tickets on the Lakers. The public coming in still liking LeBron a little bit and maybe thinking this line's a little bit too big. Nuggets won the first game by 9, but it was a game that it looked like it could have unraveled at any point really for the Lakers. If I don't know, like the Nuggets were. It looked like the Nuggets, if they really wanted to like put their foot on the gas, they maybe could have done that. I think maybe they just decided not to do that because the game was kind of enhanced. 63% of the cash on the Nuggets in this one. I do lean to the Nuggets side in this one because I think this might be the game where maybe it will wind up being a little bit higher scoring and the Nuggets will just kind of be able to win by more of a margin than they did in game one, because game one was maybe they even feel like it was maybe a little bit too close for comfort, and maybe they'll come out and show a little bit more in this one. The market indicators are on the side of the Nuggets in that one. Moving to baseball, I do have 2 plays. I have one other play that I almost went to. So we have a lot of what looks like pros versus Joes type of market indicators on all of these games that I'm about to talk about here. 2 of them I'm playing, and the other one I am not quite going to do. Actually, where is the other one now? What was the other game I was on? Oh, yeah, actually, it looks like in the other one, it looks like I don't have those market indicators on them anymore, but I'm still going to be on it. And one of the other ones that looks like it does have market indicators, I'm not going to quite get there with this one. Baltimore and the Angels is Suarez against Detmers. The Angels are down from -115 to -111 at home, but so it looks like the market has driven the number down on them a little bit, but they do appear to have 73% of the cash, but 81% of the tickets on the other side on Baltimore. So it looks like a pros versus Joes type of situation where the Joes, the recreational bettors, the public coming in taking Baltimore, saying, oh, we get Baltimore, who we think is maybe the better team here as an underdog. Yeah, let's do that. But I mean, I think there are obviously reasons to potentially not do that. It looks like the public is the pros are coming in on the other side of that game on the Angels, who have the much worse record. And I think I can tell you why. I think this is definitely a pitching mismatch. Suarez is a guy who's in his mid-30s, pitching for Baltimore. I think he's coming in and kind of having to make a kind of a spot start. Maybe like he has not pitched in the major leagues since 2017. So it's like, what do you expect to get out of him? I mean, they probably feel like he is at least ready enough to make to do something here. He's actually made one start this year. So since 2017, he had not played at all until this year, and then he made one start, and it was actually a good start. So they probably feel like he's ready, but it was against a kind of weak Minnesota offense. But he notched 4 strikeouts in the game, no walks. They won the game. I think he might have gotten – oh, no, he didn't get a decision in the game, but he only gave up 3 hits in 5 2/3. Had a nice performance in that game. But what do you really expect to get out of a guy who was out of the majors for several years and then came in and made a start against a weak offense? I don't really know what you can really draw from that. But it does mean the Angels, there are a few things that give me hesitation on this one because the Angels have basically never seen him before. Only Drury has ever seen him before, and he is 1 for 4 off him with a double, an RBI double. But still, there is kind of that unfamiliarity aspect coming in with Suarez in this game. So that's one other thing that gives you a little bit of hesitation on this one. That and the fact that LA is returning home, or the Anaheim, is returning home from a long road trip that took them to the East Coast. They played at Boston, at Tampa, and then at the Reds, and they're returning home from that long road trip. So that puts you in a bad spot, man, really. Although I believe the Angels are also in sort of an injured player theory spot because I think Rendon is now hurt. But when it's baseball, like the injured player theory tends to not be as much of a factor because it's a guy, even though it's one of their better hitters, it's like how much does that really factor in when it's baseball? You don't really have one single guy really like taking over a baseball game other than a pitcher, really. But pitchers, then it's just a game-to-game type of situation. So there's not really an injured player theory. It doesn't really have an effect in baseball. But anyway, yeah, so Suarez, I do think he's the way worse pitcher in this game, though. He's up against Detmers, but I don't like the fact that Suarez has not really been seen before by these Anaheim hitters, and the fact that Anaheim's returning home from that long road trip, that kind of just makes it a no-go for me. But Detmers has been an excellent pitcher this year. He looks like he's really like coming into form. Like maybe he's really turning it on for his career. He's been one of the best pitchers in the league this year. 1.19 ERA, 0.97 WHIP. And against Baltimore's hitters in his career, they're only 10 for 62 off them lifetime. 16 strikeouts, 6 walks. 161 opponent batting average and only a 429 OPS. So he has done really well against these Baltimore hitters too. But that does include a start this year, which I actually won on. I was on LA of Anaheim earlier this year, which was Detmer's first start of the season. He had a pretty decent start against Baltimore in that game, but that does mean that now Detmer's has been seen by Baltimore not that long ago. So that actually means that that's a slightly less of an edge for Detmers there, having just seen Baltimore. So when the hitters have just seen a pitcher, it does mean that they do have a little bit of familiarity with them. They just saw them, so they're kind of used to seeing them. So that is one slight disadvantage for Detmers as well. But I still think it is a big pitching mismatch in that one, and I would not play Baltimore in that one. Even though it is LA of Anaheim is one of the only teams, maybe the only team returning home from a long road trip there. So you might look and think, oh, we want to play against them in that spot. But I would not do so with this pitching matchup. I think the pitching matchup is a huge mismatch in the favor of Detmers. The games I'm going to be on, let's see here. Oh, of course, you know who I'm going to be on. Jared Jones, Pittsburgh, in the earlier evening game. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Pirates minus 125. It looks like you can also lay a -1 run line at plus 110 if you really want to. This one looks pros versus Joes-esque with Milwaukee having 55% of the tickets, Pittsburgh 59% of the cash on them, though. Pittsburgh's sitting at 125. It looks like it's not even moving. Jared Jones, I mean, you know how much I like Jones. He's been an excellent pitcher this year, man, in his rookie season. I've played on him in every one of his games in some way or another. I won on him in his debut, but it was against a bad Marlins team. I won on the under when he played against Baltimore. That hit, and then I lost on him in the next 2 games. But he didn't do badly at all in the next 2 games. He gave up 3 earned runs and 0 earned runs. Walked nobody in those games. He's walked nobody in his last 3 starts and notched 22 strikeouts. That's in the month of April. He has a 22-0 strikeout walk ratio. And on the season, it's 32-2 in 23 innings pitched and only allowed 16 hits. He has allowed 4 home runs, and that's really the only bad stat that he's put up. But he did not allow a home run in his most recent start. So he has just been really, really good. A 3.13 ERA. That's even a little bit high based on how he's pitched with all those other stats. A 0.78 WHIP. He's just been really, really good all around, man. And, of course, he's facing another lineup that's never seen him before, and that is the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think that's an edge to Jared Jones as well. So I like that. When the pitcher has good stuff and they're really dealing like this, and these hitters have never seen him before, although it's going to be a tall task, because it's a pretty good Milwaukee offense. But I think it's advantage to the pitcher, at least early on, when you have a pitcher who has not been seen before and they have really good stuff like Jones does. So I'm going to do it. Joe Ross is pitching for Milwaukee. He's much older. His stats this year, not good. 4.91 ERA, 1.64 WHIP is indicative that maybe his ERA should be even higher. These stats are just pretty bad overall, man. 14 2/3 innings pitched, 16 hits allowed, 8 earned runs allowed, 8 walks, and 14 strikeouts. There's nothing to like about any of those stats. He faced Minnesota, who's really not a good offense. He shut them out in 3 2/3, but he also walked 5 guys. So it was kind of a miracle that he didn't allow any runs to score in that one. He did okay against Cincinnati. That was his best game. He pitched well against Cincinnati, and then he got roughed up again against the Padres. He's just kind of an older pitcher, and he's just always been kind of mediocre at best. 4.28 ERA on his career, 4.3, 1.34 whip, excuse me. That's not good. 417 strikeouts and 458 innings pitched, also not very good. 149 walks, not horrible, but this is also his first season with Milwaukee. And prior to this season, he had not pitched in the majors since 2021. So that's also not a great sign, but just overall, his career really has not been good since his debut season in 2015. And then I guess he was okay in 2016. But after that, he's just really not been very good. He's obviously the worst starting pitcher here. And I like the fact that Pittsburgh is coming off a bad series, man, against my Red Sox. They got swept. And they are staying at home, so they're not traveling, but they might be in an angry mood after that, man. They got swept by the Red Sox, just didn't play well in the series at all, so they might be in line to refocus and have a bounce back here. I would like it even more if maybe they were going out on the road here. They're staying at home, but I still think they've just lost so many games in a row now after a hot start to the season. The public is now completely off of them. They don't want anything to do with them. They're now at 500. They've lost 6 games in a row. I think they're gonna be a little bit maybe extra motivated to not fall below 500 here. But I think because of that bad streak, we're now getting a little bit of value on them after they've been swept 2 series in a row. And I think they're going to be focused with Milwaukee coming in, with Milwaukee being the top team in the division at this point on a 4-game win streak. Milwaukee coming off a sweep of the Cardinals and having to travel. That was a road series as well, so not a whole lot of travel here, but they might be feeling a little bit high doing that to one of the other division foes, feeling a little bit high on themselves after sweeping St. Louis. So you have a team coming off a sweep against a Pittsburgh team coming off being swept in back-to-back series. I think that gives you a little bit of value, and you got the pitching matchup for this here, so I like all of that. And then looking at the bullpen situation, I don't think it's that bad for Pittsburgh either. Not bad enough, really. Pittsburgh, they did use 4 of their relievers yesterday. They did use Ryan, who I think is maybe more of a long relief guy to eat up most of the innings. But then they did use some of their better pitchers. They did use Aroldis Chapman. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. And Milwaukee on their end, they played St. Louis, and Milwaukee had to use like the back end of their bullpen. So they used 3 of their best relievers as well. So the bullpen situation, I don't think it's like that lopsided one way or the other there. So I'll just go full game on this one, which is kind of screwed me choosing between full game and first 5. I think with Jared Jones's games, I think in each of his last 2 games, I think they might have actually in the last one. I think they were winning 1-0 through his 5 innings. So the first 5 would have hit in that one. I think in the other one, I don't think it was the case. I think the other one, the first 5, I think they lost, and they lost the full game. But that'll be the first play, and then the other play that I got, one more play, is going to be on a game where it looks like the market has now shifted since a little while ago when I was looking. These numbers are just shifting around, man, because there isn't a lot of public involvement in baseball, really. But it still looks like the market indicators are probably on the side that I'm on here in the Mets in San Francisco in a late night game here for us on the East Coast, 9:45. Weird start times, man. These games don't start at the top of the hour. You got games starting at 40 past, 20 past, 45 past. I don't know what's going on in Major League Baseball, man. 9:38 p.m. is when that Baltimore-LA Anaheim game is. I don't know what that is. But I'm going to be on the Giants here. Giants are up from -115 to -117. 86% of the tickets, though, and 85% of the cash on the Mets. People are liking what they're seeing out of the Mets, man, and I think that there's reasons to not. So it looks like there is reverse line movement a little bit going against the heavily public Mets with a short home favorite in the Giants. So the public looks like they're coming in and saying, oh, we're getting the Mets, who are, they have a decent record right now. They have the better record. They're above 500. San Francisco's below 500. We get the Mets as an underdog. Yeah, let's go. Take the Mets. And the Mets, of course, they kind of carry a little bit. Well, both of these teams carry a lot of like name recognition, a lot of weight. So I don't think that's really much of the factor. I think it's the fact that the Mets have been playing a lot better. The Mets are on a nice hot streak, man. They swept the Pirates, as I mentioned. They're on a 6-game win streak, and then they finally lost yesterday to the Dodgers. I think that puts them in a bad spot here, man. And now they are traveling out to San Francisco for a second straight road series. But losing a streak like that, I think that tends to hang you over into the next game, man, especially when it's a big game. Every game against the Dodgers is a big game, man, and they were on the verge of potentially sweeping the Dodgers, so the Dodgers obviously showed up, not wanting to get swept by the Mets there. That was a big series for the Mets, man, And losing a long streak like that, you're not used to like losing anymore. You just have that winning momentum. Then you get that momentum really halted in a game that you kind of get emotionally up for and you get crushed like that. I think that tends to hang you over into the next game. So I think that is going to be a factor coming into this game. So fading the Mets for that reason. The Mets did kind of save their bullpen, though. They only used 2 relievers after Hauser got blasted in that start. They brought in kind of more like longer relief type of guys to just save their pen. So their pen is actually in good shape. So I don't love that aspect of it necessarily. They were playing against the Giants, though. The Giants yesterday, what did they do? The Giants, they lost to Arizona. So, I mean, tough game against Arizona, too. Of course, Arizona won the National League last year. In that game, San Francisco didn't really use that much of their bullpen either, although they used a couple of their better relievers kind of in relief of Hicks. But I think the bullpen situation isn't that lopsided one way or the other in this matchup either, as far as how much they got used yesterday. So I don't really care that much about it. I mean, playing Arizona, it's still, kind of a big series. But San Francisco did lose that series. So now I think maybe they'll be in line for another like little bit of a bounce back here against that or coming off of that loss, although it was kind of a dramatic loss as they wound up losing. It was a tied game into the 9th, and they wound up losing the game. Or no, excuse me, was it? No, it was not. They were down. They were down. What were they down? 3. Yeah, they were down 3-2. Going into the 9th, and then gave up 5 more runs, or 2 more runs. So they were down 1 going into the 9th. So not as totally dramatic, but San Francisco lost that series. I think they're going to be in line for a little bit of a bounce back here. Whereas the Mets, I think, are in the worst situational spot there as far as like what do you think like is going to be their emotional state coming off that previous game. And then we look at the starting pitching matchup, and I like the matchup better for San Francisco. I'm going against Quintana again. Then I don't like Quintana that much. These older junk pitchers. He has been pretty good this year as far as keeping his opponent's run counts down, the amount of runs down. He has a 3.05 ERA, but his 1.5 WHIP indicates that he probably should have a higher ERA than that, man. Like, he's gone 20 2/3. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any start, so that's all pretty good. Hasn't been going totally deep into any of those starts, but he's allowed 11 walks and 16 strikeouts. So his strikeout rate, he's never been a great strikeout pitcher. That walk total is very high, though, man. He's been putting a lot of guys on base and kind of just escaping and getting away with it. And I don't know how long that can really last. I think somebody's going to have to turn around with a whip this high, even though it kind of didn't last year. His whip was in the 1.3s last year, and his ERA still remained pretty good last year. But I don't know, man, with the fact that he's walking so many guys and the fact that he doesn't have great strikeout stuff and whatever, I don't think that this an ERA this low, I don't think is sustainable. So I think there has to be some regression here. And I really just don't think he's the better pitcher here. And up against, what are we talking about? Against San Francisco Giants in his career, I mean, his stats aren't bad against them really, but they have seen him a bunch. So I'm going with the familiarity aspect of this pitching matchup here and who I think is the better pitcher and the younger pitcher. Quintana, the Giants are 9 for 37 off of him lifetime with 2 home runs, 4 extra base hits. He does have a 10-3 strikeout walk ratio against them. It's only a 243 batting average, so he hasn't been bad against them at all, really. 759 OPS, not horrible either. So he's been okay against them, but they have seen him a bunch. So that's kind of where I'm going with that one, because on the other side, you got Keaton Winn, who's only a 26-year-old. I actually think he's the better pitcher, even though he has the worst ERA this year. And the Mets have never seen him before, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they've never faced him before. So when you have these young guys who are pretty decent pitchers, and I think that he is one of those, that tends to be an advantage to the pitchers. As I always say, I'm doing it with both of these baseball games today. You have young starters who have pretty decent stuff going up against lineups who have never seen them before, so they're unfamiliar with them. So I like that. I think that's an advantage to the pitchers. Wynn has a 4.09 ERA, which I think maybe is a little bit misleading. His ERA is worse than Quintana's this year, but his whip is actually better significantly at 1.09. Wynn really has not allowed many hits. He's gone 22 innings so far. He's allowed 8 walks, so he has to keep that down. 17 strikeouts, not terrible, not bad. The 8 walks, probably the worst number that he's got there. But he's only allowed 16 hits as well, so that's not too bad. He hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs, or 4 runs. Actually, both are correct in any of his starts. And he had his best start I would say, I think in his most recent outing against Miami, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, but Miami really can't hit. But I think maybe that gives him a little bit of traction because that was the first San Francisco win with win. That was the first time his team won with him pitching on the season. So maybe that'll give him a little bit of confidence, a little bit of momentum coming into this game. Over his short career, he's only made 9 career starts, and he made 4 relief appearances last year as well. He does have a 1.06 whip on his career, so that's not bad either. 4.48 ERA is higher than it should be given that whip. 52 strikeouts and 64 and a third. Okay strikeout rate, really. And 16 walks. Not horrible. 3.3 strikeout walk ratio. That number of walks actually isn't that bad. So he's been a pretty decent pitcher, man. I think he's the better pitcher here. He has the unfamiliarity aspect going for him, and I think the scheduling spot dictates it. That's going to do it. Those plays. Go over them one more time. NHL Dallas Stars minus 130 in revenge. We're zigzagging in Orlando, Cleveland, and taking that over the total at 202.5. And then we're taking the unfamiliar young guns in both pitching matchups here in scheduling spots that I also think are pretty good for these teams here. Pittsburgh Pirates minus 125 and San Francisco Giants. What can you get them at here? I didn't even look. To close this out, minus 120. It looks like it's the best you can do. I wouldn't mind if you want to go and get like a run line and take the run line at like plus 110 or plus 115 in those games or whatever you can get there. I wouldn't mind that either. But then you're not going to win if they win by 1. I don't know. But you're having to pay a little bit less of a price to do that and accept that if they only win by 1, you'll get a push. But if they lose, it'll work out better for you. So I don't know. That might be the less risky way of playing it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to throw my balls out there and and just play the money lines on those. But let's do it, man. 3 like slight money line favorites, man. It has the potential to go kind of awry. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's do it. Let's keep this winning streak going here. Peace out. Happy Monday. No. Monday. Peace out.